All right, so today we're looking at our review for 3.5 to 3.7. Our test over this will be tomorrow. So number one is to sketch the graph of the function f of x equals x cubed plus x squared minus 2x by finding the zeros. So very first thing, in order to find the zeros, I want to always check, will this factor? I noticed that I could take an x out of everything, so I'm going to start by factoring by taking an x out. Pull an x out, then I'm left with x squared plus x minus 2. All of that equals 0 because I'm finding zeros. Now I have the trinomial x squared plus x minus 2. I think that will factor, so I'm going to try to factor that. So two sets of parentheses. I get x and x. What can I multiply together to get negative 2, but add to get a positive 1? That's going to be a positive 2 and a negative 1. So each of these will give me a 0. So set each of these equal to 0. X equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. So then I get x equals 0. X equals negative 2. And x equals positive 1. So I'm going to plot those on my graph. 0, 1, and negative 2. So now I have options. I can either make a table with the intervals and test in those intervals to see if my graph is positive and negative, or I see that each of my zeros only appears one time, so I know that it's going to cross at each of these. Right? So I know it's not going to come up, touch, and go back down at any of them. It's going to cross. And then I can go ahead and look at what is my end behavior. I was positive, the original equation, positive and odd, so I know my end behavior was going to be a down, up. So if this is up, this is down. It has to cross through each of these. I know, so it's coming up, something like this. And again, it's just a rough sketch. I don't know how high it goes or how low it goes, and I don't need to know that for here. So there's the graph of that by finding its zeros. Number 2, find the zeros of the function f of x equals x cubed minus 7x squared plus 11x minus 5. Describe the behavior of the graph at each zero. So again, the first thing I want to look for is, will this factor? I have 4 terms, so I'm looking at factoring by GCF or factor by grouping. They don't have anything in common, and I cannot factor by grouping. So this is where I have to do my P's and Q's. So I'm going to list the list of possible ones. My constant is 5, so my factors are plus or minus 1, plus or minus 5. My leading coefficient is 1, so plus or minus 1. So my only options are positive, negative 1, positive, negative 5. Okay. So I will just start with 1. I'm going to start with the very first one, 1, and try synthetic division. So list my coefficients, 1, negative 7, 11, negative 5. Bring my 1 straight down, multiply, add, and looky there, the very first one I picked works. So I know x equals 1 is one of my zeros. So now this is x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals 0. I want to see first, since it's a x squared, will it factor? Well, can I multiply 2 numbers together to get positive 5 but add to get negative 6? Absolutely. I can do an x minus 1 and an x minus 5. So then here I get x equals 1 and x equals 5. I know because it was an x cubed, I'm going to have 3 answers. I got x equals 1 twice, so x equals 1 as a multiplicity of 2. Therefore, if it's an even multiplicity, that means it touches the x-axis. The graph touches the x-axis and turns back here at x equals 1. Then I have x equals 5. It had an odd multiplicity, so I know that my graph crosses the x-axis. So those are my answers. Describe the behavior of the graph for each zero. Number 3, list all possible rational solutions. So list all possible rational solutions of this. This is my P's and Q's. Okay, so P divided by Q. My constant is 1, so positive, negative 1. My leading coefficient is 3. Positive, negative 1, positive, negative 3. Everything on top divided by 1 gets me plus or minus 1. Everything on top divided by the 3, plus or minus 1/3. Those are my possibles. That's all that it asked me to do. It didn't ask me to solve. Number 4, what are all the real and complex solutions of this? So I look at what's my highest degree, a 3. I should have 3 answers here. First thing I notice is that it's not equal to 0, so I want to move everything to the same side. So when I do that, I get x cubed minus x squared minus 20x, and then plus 50 equals 0. Again, before I have to do synthetic division, I'm going to check it's 4 terms. Greatest common factor or factor by grouping. I notice the first 2 have an x squared in common. The second 2 have, let's see, 10 in common would be the biggest thing. But I'm not going to end up with the same thing in parentheses. So I know that it's not going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and do P's and Q's. So synthetic division. So P's and Q's, all my factors are 50. So 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, and 50 over my leading coefficient, which is just 1. All right, so let's see. Let's start with positive 5. This looks like a good place to start. So my coefficients, 1, negative 20, 50. 1 comes straight down, multiply, add. Multiply, add. Nope. So positive 5 didn't work. So now I'm going to try negative 5. So 1, negative 20, 50. Bring my 1 down, negative 5, negative 6, 30, 10, yay, yay, yay. So x equals negative 5 worked. All right. So now I have x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. I look at, will this factor? What can I multiply together to get 10 but add to get negative 6? Nothing. So it doesn't factor. So then I either have to do quadratic formula or complete the square to make it factor. You know me, I love complete the square. I'm going to complete the square to make it factor. So x squared minus 6x plus a blank equals negative 10 plus my blank. Complete the square, I take the number in front of x, negative 6, I cut it in half and square it. So negative 6 cut in half is negative 3 squared is 9. I add 9 to both sides. So this now factors to x minus 3 quantity squared equals negative 1. Take the square root of both sides. Where did my problem go? Take the square root of both sides. So now I have x minus 3 equals, I put the square root of the problem, plus or minus. Square root of negative 1, that's I. Move my 3 over. X equals 3 plus or minus I. 2 answers there, 1 answer here. Those are my 3 answers. Okay. Let's go to the back. Polynomial function q of degree 4 with rational coefficients has zeros 2 minus the square root of 3 and 6i. What's an equation for q? Well, if I have 2 minus the square root of 3, I also have 2 plus the square root of 3 by the conjugate rule. If I have 6i, I also have negative 6i. So remember, I write this out. X minus in parentheses 2 minus the square root of 3. X minus parentheses 2 plus the square root of 3. X minus 6i. X plus 6i. Distribute my negative, so I get x minus 2 minus the square root of 3, or sorry, plus the square root of 3 there. X minus 2 minus the square root of 3. X minus 6i and x plus 6i, that came from a sum of squares, right, because it has the I. So I know that this came from x squared plus 36. Here, x minus 2's are the same, so this is an x minus 2 quantity squared minus the square root of 3 quantity squared times my x squared plus 36. So x minus 2 quantity squared, I'm going to do my shortcut. That's going to give me x squared minus 4x plus 4 minus the square root of 3 quantity squared is minus 3. When I combine that, I get x squared minus 4x plus 1. I need to distribute that with x squared plus 36. So x squared times x squared, x to the 4th, plus 36x squared, minus 4x cubed, plus 36 times negative 4, so minus 144x, plus x squared plus 36. So now I need to give it its name and combine like terms that tell me function q. So q of x equals x to the fourth minus 4x cubed plus 37x squared minus 144x plus 36. That's my polynomial. Number 6 is the function 3x to the fourth minus 11x squared plus 15, even, odd, or neither, without graphing it. So I put f of negative x in, right? I replace all of my x's with negatives. So 3 times negative x to the fourth minus 11 times negative x squared plus 15. I take a negative number and I raise it to the fourth power, it turns positive, so I have 3x to the fourth. If I take a negative number and I square it, I get positive, but then I still have this negative 11 out front, minus 11x squared plus 15. Is this exactly what I started out with? Yes. So f of negative x equals f of x. This is exactly what I started out with. Therefore, this function is even. Number 7, how does the graph of the function f of x equals 2x cubed minus 1 differ from the graphs of its parent function? Well, I know that that 2 is going to be a vertical stretch, right? So this is a vertical stretch. So I'm just going to write down what I know and then check for my answers. I know this minus 1 goes down 1. So part A, it says the graphs are the same. No. B, subtracting 1 translates the graph right 3 units. Absolutely not. C, the leading coefficient 2 stretches the graph vertically. Yes. B, subtracting 3 translates the graph left 3 units. We haven't even subtracted 3. No. So C was my only right answer. They did not talk about it shifting down. All right, so last one. A storage unit in the shape of a rectangular prism measures 2x feet long, x plus 8 feet wide, and x plus 9 feet tall. What are the dimensions of the storage unit in feet if its volume is 792 cubic feet? So first, V of x is going to equal 2x times x plus 8 times x plus 9. Remember, volume, multiply them all together. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this. So then I get 2x squared plus 16x. I want to multiply by x plus 9. So I've got 2x cubed plus 18x squared plus 16x squared plus 144x. Combine like terms, so 2x cubed plus 34x squared plus 144x. All of that has to equal my volume, they tell me 792. So now just move 792 over. So I have 2x cubed plus 34x squared plus 144x minus 792 equals 0. This is what I'm trying to solve. I notice they all have a 2 in common, so I'm going to make my life a little bit easier, take a 2 out. And then I get x cubed plus 17x squared plus 72x minus 396 equals 0. That's not going to factor, so P's and Q's. My constant term is negative 396, so let's start listing factors of negative 396. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 11. Let's see, what am I finding? I'm finding x is going to be one of the dimensions of a storage unit, and I'm going to plug it in, do 2 times x, x plus 8, x plus 9. So I'm probably not going to be much bigger than 11 feet that I would be adding in here. So I think I'm going to be okay and stop here on listing my P's and Q's and try some of these, right? So I know I'm not going to be huge. I know I'm not going to be really, really small. So let's pick middle of the road, maybe. I don't know, let's say 4. I pick a 4 and I plug in. I have 1, 17, 72, negative 396. 4, 16. 17 plus 16 gets us 33. 33 times 4 gets us 99. 99 plus 72 gets us 171. I'm thinking this probably not going to work. 684. No. So I'm going to go smaller. So now I'm going to try 3. So if I try 3, 1, 17, 22, negative 396. 1 comes down, 3, 17 plus 3, 20. Hey, 20 times 3 is 60. Sorry, this was a 72. I don't know why that looks like a 22. 72 plus 60 is 132. 132 times 3, oh my goodness, 396. Yay. So x equals 3 works. Need to know, is that the only one that's going to work? So x squared plus 20x plus 132. I'm going to check my discriminant. So 20 squared minus 4 times 1 times 132. This would be a negative number, therefore no more reals. So I know x equals 3 is the only one that worked. So x equals 3. So now I have to answer the question. Find the dimensions. So the first dimension was 2x. So 2x gets me 2 times 3, gets me 6 feet long. The next dimension was x plus 8. So 3 plus 8 gets me 11 feet wide. And the last one was x plus 9. So 3 plus 9 gets me 12 feet tall. So my dimensions, 6 feet by 11 feet by 12 feet. All right. That is this test review. You can work these types of problems. You should be okay on your test tomorrow. So study, study, study.